Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the program on radio.com. We'll be joined by WFAN at 6 o'clock, so we'll be with you for the next 90 minutes. A lot to do on a busy Tuesday program. Today, the 21st day of the month of January. Tomorrow, the 22nd, will also be Zion's return, so you'll get plenty of NBA tomorrow. We'll save that for tomorrow. So today you got a lot going on. You have the Hall of Fame stuff coming up about an hour from now. There's no drama with Jeter, of course. The only drama will be whether he gets 100% or not, and that seems to be something people worry about. I don't know why. For years, no one did. Then finally someone did. Now we'll see if he becomes the next perfect player. You know, what would be apropos considering the flawless way he ran his career. But Jeter, of course, will be up in the 99 point something or 100%. And the question is, does anybody get in behind Jeter? There's two candidates. One, Larry Walker, who I do not believe is a Hall of Famer. And I know him a tough marker. He has very good credentials. 3 batting titles, a very good batting average, 380 home runs, blah, blah. But he also has a batting average that is 70 points higher in Coors Field than it is on the road. So to me, that detracts and keeps him out of the Hall of Fame. The other I would vote for, the only other guy, now I'm leaving all the steroid people off the ballot until further notice. I am not dealing with any of them. So the only other guy I would put in this year is Schilling. I think Schilling's a Hall of Famer. I think Schilling had a Hall of Fame career. I think he was a great money pitcher. I think you pay people for being big money pitchers, big game pitchers, and he was the essence, the pure essence of a big game pitcher. So I would, without question, put Schilling in. So my ballot would be Jeter, Schilling, nobody else. This year we'll find out about an hour from now. Obviously, we get one day closer to the Super Bowl, and the storylines, they're plentiful, but they're going to deal with the coaches. The Shanahan one is silly. As I said on the 5-Minute Morning this morning, Shanahan doesn't have a Super Bowl legacy. He's never been head coach before. You don't make a legacy as a coordinator. So that's not on him. That's on the head coach. He comes into this game for the first time, and he's a guy who's coached 3 years as a head coach. That's his legacy. So he doesn't have a legacy. He's a young coach trying to make a mark. Andy Reid has a legacy. Andy Reid is the winningest coach never to win a Super Bowl or a championship. Not a Super Bowl, but a championship. There are guys who, in the pre-Super Bowl era, who are on that list. But if you go down the list, and he has 207 lifetime wins, everybody ahead of Andy in lifetime wins won a championship. He has not. He's been to the Super Bowl once. Now he goes for the second time. He needs to win that in our eyes. It's funny. I mention this because it's almost fitting here. Andy Reid's had an incredible career. He's got a great coaching tree. He's been highly innovative as an offensive coach. He's built 2 very powerful teams. He's won 10 or more games 14 times in a league where that is very tough to do. He's now 14-14 lifetime in the postseason. Some hard losses, but also plenty of wins. But he has yet to win a championship. And you know what? When you look at that, that's a great resume. I remember when Dane Smith finally won a championship after so many tries. The legendary career, the many trips to the Final Four, and finally a championship. And he turned to the media as he about to go to the podium after winning that night. And he said, am I a better coach now than I was 15 minutes ago? The answer was obviously no. He wasn't any different than he was 15 minutes ago. But he now had a championship. And while he might not look at himself any different, we look at the coach different once he wins the title. Once he starts to win championships, to get rings. And that's what we, in the modern era, where the playoff in every sport has become what's important. As the playoffs have been expanded in many sports and become the dominant figures in many sports, in every sport, it's about winning big games. And that's why if Andy wins this game 12 days from today in Miami, if in that time he's cutting down a championship, if he's waiting for the confetti and waiting for a trophy and he's getting a ring, he will then be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Without it, he will struggle a little bit, and he'll be the guy who couldn't win the big one. So it's right there in front of him. And for him, it is about a legacy, because all that stands between Andy Reid and coaching greatness is a championship in the sport's biggest game and in sport's biggest game, which is what the Super Bowl is. And in no sport, I have said this many times, and you know, John Lynch, who's done a great job building the Niners, made this point the other day. He said nobody remembers who loses the Super Bowl. He's right, but not only that, You get no credit for going to the Super Bowl and losing. You actually get more blame than you do if you lose in the AFC or NFC title game. That's forgotten. Super Bowl losses, especially one-sided, actually are more detrimental. You become a punchline. You become someone who can't win the big one. You become someone who dissolves in the big game. It hurt Elway for years. It hurt the Minnesota Vikings for years. It hurt Fran Tarkenton for years. It hurt the Buffalo Bills for years. So getting to this game, which is an achievement, is not looked at it. It is looked at as a knock if you go to this game and lose, especially if you go there as a repeater and lose, or if you go there and lose very badly. Either one will stick to your ribs forever. And that's why it's better not to show up than to do that. But here's the deal. If you win this game, there's unrivaled glory. There's nothing but seashells and balloons, as Al McGuire would say. But losing it is nothing but hardship, and it follows you forever. There is a bigger gap in losing this game versus the winner than there is in any other sport. You go to the NBA Finals and you lose, hey, you got the Finals. You go to the World Series and you lose, hey, you made the World Series. You go to this game and lose, nothing. Nothing. I know coaches who have gone to this game and lost and never won and said, hey, I didn't get any credit for going to that game. You don't get any credit for going to this game. It becomes something that it's like a weight around your neck if you lose this game. Losing this game takes points off getting to this game. So that's why it is so important when you get here to win, because we acknowledge and glorify the winners, and we, without question, do very little for the losers. And as a matter of fact, we detract greatly from those that lose in this game. But we'll have more on it. Obviously, Kansas City right now, 1.5 favorite. They opened up as 1. They've gone to 1.5. I don't think it'll go much higher than this. I'm sure the late money will be San Francisco. I think the game will be right about where it is now. I don't think it's going much higher. I don't think San Francisco will be favored. I think Kansas City will float right around where they are now, or 1.5 point favorite for this game, with the over on the number in the mid, 54, 55, 54.5, 53, depending on the weather, over on the number. Golf is back for the second week on the mainland. Right now you're in the west, then you'll hit Florida soon. But this is Torrey Pines, and what that means is Tiger Woods. Tiger begins his campaign, and this is 44th year of his life. Begins his campaign, his 2020 campaign, at a place where he has done nothing but win. He has won at Torrey Pines 8 times. 7 times he has won this tournament that they will play this week. One other time he won a U.S. Open there back in 2008. So Tiger Woods, who says, you know what, now at 44 I have more bad days than good days. He says that's just part of the deal now. More bad days than good days. But Tiger Woods is still hopeful. He's looking for an 83rd PGA Tour win, which would lock him up with Sam Snead. And he also is sporting some new equipment. If you're a diehard and care about such things, a Bridgestone ball, tailor-made equipment, which we don't know if he'll have the tailor-made equipment out this week at Torrey Pines or not, but he is now fashioning tailor-made equipment. He is now playing a Bridgestone ball, so some new equipment for the legendary Tiger Woods as he begins his campaign this week at a place that has been very, very good to him. So there's plenty of stuff going on. As we said, we'll have the Hall of Fame coming up about an hour from now, maybe a few minutes before, and we'll see. There's 3 possibilities: Walker, Schilling, and yes, Jeter's a lock. No one else looks to even be close. I say Schilling, yes, Walker, no. We'll see if that's right. Obviously, there'll be more NBA stuff. Today, they had a special event for David Stern at Radio City. Pretty much filled Radio City with, NBA greats, NBA legends, coaches, owners, players, from Riley to Magic to down the line, a who's who paid homage to the legendary commissioner. And in my mind, and I've talked openly about how much David Stern was a favorite. if I go back through the years of the Mike and the Mad Dog Show, and then tack on the dozen years that I've worked since, if I'm going to list the best guests through the years in terms of presence, in terms of performance, in terms of personality and what they brought to the program, David Stern ranks right at the top. He brought a kind of curmudgeonly, argumentative boldness to the program. A smart man, which always showed, but not afraid to get in an argument, liked to get a little curmudgeonly, and was a great guest. In the same kind of mold that George Young, the late Giant general manager, who will be going into the Hall of Fame, and rightly so, brought that same kind of cantankerous, playful, but also curmudgeonly kind of style to the show. But favorites of ours, Dog and myself, and in the years by myself, became very close to David Stern, and he was a very, very bright man. And in the modern age, to me, there are two commissioners that just jump off the page. One is Rozelle, who, built the sport of sports, built a sport into such a powerhouse that there's nothing close. But the other is David Stern, who took the NBA when it was really on its last legs. It was in a tough time. It was a tough time for the league in terms of what the players were doing, in terms of some of the problems the league had, in terms of some of the insolvent ownership it had, in terms of the fact that they were playing NBA final games on tape delay. They weren't even putting the games on television. And along came David Stern with a different idea. And not only did he make the owners rich and increase the value of the franchises, but he branded the NBA all over the world, made the players incredibly wealthy. He had help. Magic, who spoke today, and Bird brought their brand of complete and just tremendous court vision, court leadership, getting everybody involved, but being leaders, winners, and guys who were so gifted at the game. Along came the preeminent talent of Jordan, who followed right after those two, and even elevated to another level with what the Bulls were able to accomplish during the Jordan years. So thanks to Stern for what he gave to this league. He leaves an incredible legacy. And really, there's not an NBA player, not an NBA employee, not an NBA owner, not an NBA fan that does not owe David Stern a debt of gratitude for what he did with that league. Just an incredible performance as a commissioner in turning a league around, in dragging it forward with his leadership. Not always pleasant, not always forgiving, not always popular, but doing what had to be done and doing it in a way that was right for the league. And it was done with vision, it was done with clarity, and it was done with an idea towards the future. And now NBA players make a fortune, and the game is incredibly healthy, and franchises are worth a fortune. And that is all because of the leadership of David Stern, and also because of the presence of Bird, Magic, and of course Michael Jordan. So again, there will not be another like him to come down the pike for a very long time. But he really was a very, very special person and a great commissioner. So he deserves that mention. Back to the game for a couple minutes. We'll have David Deal on in a couple minutes and talk about a part of this game that's going to be very important, and that is the zone blocking scheme that launches the Shanahan running game. This is a running attack that is handed down from father to son. This was the invention of Mike Shanahan. He won with it. He won big in Denver with it. And now his son runs it very successfully. Nobody knows running game better than he does. Nobody implements running game better than he does. And he does it with a very simple but incredibly effective zone blocking scheme. And really, It's the outside zone and the inside zone, and that's what they run, and they run everything off it, and they do an incredible job. So we'll discuss that with a giant lineman who knows his way around big games and big moments. So we'll have Dave in a couple of minutes, and we'll discuss that. And also the idea of what Kansas City has to do on its offensive front, because they will be facing the best pass rush in the league. Now, Mahomes can use his legs, does use his legs, used his legs on a very, very big play, can also make some plays on the run. So his escapability, his ability to run is a factor in this game, and that's what makes him so much the modern prototypical quarterback with his arm and his legs. But there's going to be pressure on this Kansas City offensive line to give this quarterback time to make throws to this brilliant bunch of receivers. There is no group of receivers in the league that get open. And open meaning 3 yards in the clear or more away from a defender. That's categorically open. Nobody in the league comes close to the 46.7 that they get open in Kansas City. And to do that with guys who can run like the chief receivers run, it is a speed on speed. This is speed on Kansas City's offense, speed on San Francisco's defense. And, there's an old adage in sports that luck follows speed. And it does, because speed kills and speed wins a lot of games. And you have incredible quickness and speed in these lineups. So you have a quarterback who can make every throw, who has maneuverability, who has escapability, who has the ability to throw on the run and can also turn it upfield for big yardage. And you have him going against a pass rush that, without question, when healthy, is by far the best pass rush. Not even close. They get to the quarterback on passing downs at full strength an incomparable 17% of the time. Bosa has had an incredible season, 12 as winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year, 12 sacks, regular season, 3 in the postseason. A big game last week again, and their defense has looked so impressive so far. But it does have its vulnerabilities, especially at the corner opposite Sherman, and it's going to be interesting to see how Kansas City is able to attack that and how they're able to protect this very talented quarterback against that pass rush. So you always look at what will happen in the trenches in these games. You always look at this game and whether a defense can really take over this game in a big way. We'll wait and see if they can. It'll be very interesting to see. So from that standpoint, there's a lot to look at on the offensive line. Kansas City's going up against this great pass rush. And on the other side, whether or not San Francisco's offensive line can continue its mastery the way it has the last 2 weeks. It has dominated Minnesota and dominated Green Bay with the zone blocking that launches this running attack. And they have been overpowering in what they've done. Simplistic in their approach, but overpowering in the results. And now they'll try to do it to Kansas City. And let's be honest, to be fair here, and it didn't get enough attention, Kansas City's defense did the job. Did the job that New England couldn't do. Did the job that Baltimore couldn't do. They did not slow Henry down. He got stronger as the game went on. In this game, after they trailed 17-7, their defense stepped up and shut down Henry and shut down the Tennessee offense and got the ball back to the defense, which put up, if you go from 17-7, put up a touchdown that made it 17-14, held them, put up a touchdown that made it 21-17, that Mahomes run. They go to the half. They have the ball for 4 plays on their first drive of the third quarter. They go up 28-17. They get 1 first down and have to punt the ball again. They're now up 35-17. So Tennessee couldn't get anything going offensively as the game went from Tennessee 17, Kansas City 7 to Kansas City 14 to Kansas City 21-17, 28-17, 35-17. Count that 28 unanswered points. Yes, from a lethal offense, but a defense that shut down the big man. And in that body of work, there were 2 pass plays where he went for negative yardage and 5 running plays where he got 1 yard, no yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, and no yards. New England didn't do that. Baltimore didn't do that. Kansas City did that. Now can they, with Chris Jones 2 weeks healthier, now can they, in a big part of this game, can they shut down this San Francisco running attack, which has been overpowering against Minnesota, overpowering against Green Bay. I mean, staggeringly overpowering in these 2 spots when you think about it. Absolutely staggering with what they were able to do, and did it against solid defenses. I mean, really, a terrific performance in every way. You have to really be amazed with how much they were able to run the ball the last couple of weeks. I mean, Minnesota's defense was good, and they were able to run the ball really at will. I mean, they really were. They ran the ball for 186 yards, in that game. Coleman had 105. Mostert, who saved his better stuff last week, had 58. And then last week, staggering, just absolutely staggering numbers in a game where you have Garoppolo only throwing 8 passes, 6 for 8 in the game, while the back Mostert gets 220 yards on 29 carries, and they get 285 yards rushing. Staggering number in the game. Can Kansas City slow that down this week? At some point, they're going to have to. So there's a lot going on there. As we said, we'll have the Hall of Fame coming up when we go to the Fan at 6. We've got a lot of other stuff to get to. We'll talk to David Deal. Right now, we'll take a quick break. Finally, he will begin his career after the arthroscopic surgery that has put him on the bench. The Pelicans haven't played that badly. They've done a decent job. They're 17-27, so he's missed 44 games. He will begin his debut tomorrow night. And I have obviously been, it's not like I was trying to be critical of Williamson in any way. I just think, first of all, the hype for him got so crazy, so out of control. Last year, the Duke, I had not seen a hype like that at Duke since, or in college, since the days of Patrick Ewing. And remember, Ewing went to the championship game and came within a point of winning the championship his first year. He won the championship as a junior and lost the championship by 2 points as a senior. So he went to 3 title games in 4 years. He won a title and came within 2 baskets of winning 3. So, I mean, last year, with 3 other first-round picks on that roster, they didn't even get to the Final Four. So last year was not a great performance by them. And I just think people have just gone so crazy about what he's going to be able to do. His body type was such that if a guy gets injured a lot in college, I worry about him. And I also worry about somebody who is that big, carrying 285 pounds as a youngster on that frame. That's going to get harder and harder with the years to come, not easier. Your body fills out. What happens when his body fills out? And the only one who said that was Shaquille, because he knew. And what happens? He misses 44 games before the season starts. He is a freakish player around the basket because he's got very powerful hands and he's a very quick jumper. It's going to allow him to get rebounds. It's going to allow him to score points. But this is a game where that is built on the perimeter now with players who are multidimensional and who shoot threes and defend the three, play the game at a high level, out on the floor. That is not who this guy is. This is a player who wants to play around the basket, who is a inside scorer. Yes, he's going to shoot a high percentage. He's going to take shots within 3 feet of the basket. He's not been a great foul shooter. He's not a three-point shooter. He is not going to be a good open floor defender. Block shots, yes. Do I think he's going to be a LeBron James type player? Absolutely not. I think he's going to be a solid player. He might be even better than that. Do I think he's going to dominate the entire league? No, I do not think so. Now, will he score? I think he'll score plenty. But there's plenty of guys who score in this league, as we know. But now most of them incorporate some ability to shoot on the perimeter as part of their game, incorporating their game into, that part of it, which is now part and parcel of how we play and how the league is played. So it'll be fascinating to watch because the hype will be off the charts, and they have waited for this for so long that there will be a lot of hype, and there will be here's what they'll do. They'll put together his greatest dunks, and that will be what it'll be thrills about. You know what? They're 2 points. In a league full of three-pointers, they're 2 points. Not about dunks. It's about winning and making your team better. And the way the modern player is built, there are players you would rather have if you're smart. But, again, he's going to get an incredible amount of attention. And if you're looking at 22 and 10 as being the answer, well, I think he'll do that. I mean, I think he'll do that. But I don't think that makes you generational doing something like that. So, again, we'll worry about that tomorrow because that will be tomorrow's topic. We'll stick on football. We're waiting on David's with us. All right, let's talk to David Deal now. David, welcome. How are you?
Happy Tuesday, Mike. How's everything going,
All right,
my man?
very good. All right, David, let's get into this from a line standpoint. First off, the fans are hearing so much now about the zone running game, the zone blocking scheme, the legacy of the Shanahans, how it was successful for Mike. Now it's been handed down to Kyle. Explain to them in layman's terms what is the key for linemen playing in that system.
Well, I think the great thing is the diversity of the run scheme. If you look at the way that Kyle Shanahan dialed things up against the Green Bay Packers when it came to their offensive line, the first thing that they started to do was started to run power, pulling their backside guard, putting on the front side linebacker. Then they started to trap with Kittle. So they forced the Green Bay Packers to get all condensed within the tackles. And then from there, with all of the play action and then all of the smoke and mirrors off of it, they started to get Mostert to the outside to use his speed and started to hit the perimeter. So the fact that they're diverse and the fact that they can play smash mouth downhill, power football, one tight end, one fullback, hit you dead square in the mouth, and then force you to bring that eighth guy and condense down into the box. And then you've got guys that can run reverses. You've got big athletic receivers that are physical like Deebo Samuel that can hit to the outside. It just shows the diversity of the way that Kyle Shanahan outnumbers a defense based upon, I'm going to set you up with this, but overall I'm going to make you adjust, and now I'm going to hit you with the outside movement. And when you have a coach that can do that, and I'll tell you as an offensive lineman playing 11 years in the NFL, when you're allowed to tee off on the defensive end or a defensive tackle for 2+ quarters, in the third and fourth quarter, those 3, 6, 7s now start turning into 13, start turning into home run hits. And I think the prime example of it was when it was 3rd and 8. They run a trap, and Mostert runs clean up to the second level, all the way to the safety for a touchdown. When you can do that, and when you can be the aggressor, and now you have a defensive coordinator like Mike Pettin on his heels, that goes to show you how smart he's gotten with the run game. And it's not just this past weekend. Figure he did this without Joe Staley, without McGlinchey, without Kyle Juszczyk in primetime games.
When you look at it from their standpoint, they're looking to make big plays with the running game. They're not trying to get 4 yards. They're trying to get 40 yards. I mean, they're trying to launch guys, especially when they go outside with the zone there. What's the key thing for linemen when they're trying to make the big play there?
The big key is to make sure that you cover up. Take care of the down guys first. Don't worry about the second-level guys. Make sure that you don't give up any penetration by that front side defensive tackle and defensive end, because right away you're a landmark as a guard and a tackle when you're in that outside zone. Your shoulders should look identical to the running back coming downhill. What's the first thing if a running back sees color? His instinct immediately is to cut it backside. So it's the first thing is secure front side, don't give up any penetration, and make sure you're able to get to that front side linebacker. As long as you're able to do that and you don't let penetration disrupt the backfield, it gives a speed guy like Mostert or Breida, and we'll see. I highly doubt in 2 weeks that Tevin Coleman will be back, but it lets guys like that build up speed that you're not going to be able to grab those guys with just arm tackles and beat them to the point of attack. They've already got you outmanned, and they've got you to the outside.
Now, the unsung part of that game for Kansas City was they shut Tennessee's running game down when they had to. When they were down 17-7, they actually did a better job than New England did. They did a better job than Baltimore did. He was not able to dominate in the middle part of the game. Then he was out of the game score-wise after that. But in the middle part of the game, when it went from 17-7 down to 35-17 up, they were able to get him off the field, and there was a stretch there where he didn't get more than 4 yards on any play that he touched the ball in. Why was Kansas City, in your mind, so successful in that part of the game, stopping the run?
Well, obviously, you know my background, knowing Spags' defense, going up against it firsthand. He always makes in-game adjustments after that first drive. You always say that a defense or an offense, we always used to call it Baskin Robbins. There's a flavor of the day of the way that they want to hit you. But Spags always had that ability to adjust. You could see there from that second quarter on, when they had that big stop on 2nd and 1, that was the time that defense started playing downhill. Now, all of a sudden, you start building some momentum. The big addition of getting Chris Jones back was huge for the inside defensive line to not let them get that guard to the second level and really letting Ben Jones struggle trying to move at the point of attack. So getting Chris Jones back and having that calf ready, you could see the pressure that he was putting on Saffold, who's their best guard, and having that crowd noise behind him. There was no movement at the line of scrimmage. So when you're able to do that and you're able to stop Henry and getting his momentum up to the second level, that's where you start getting him disrupting, running into the guard, running into the tackle. And by that time, when he does that, that allows those linebackers who are flying around to get downhill and get those wrap-up tackles to where he's not building up momentum to the second level.
All right, Kansas City's offensive line, we're talking with David Deal. Kansas City's offensive line is going to go up against the best pass rushing group in the league. I mean, healthy at full strength, those guys were they got the sack 17% of the time when they were healthy and at full strength on passing downs. That's an incredible number. We know how good Bosa is. We know they have 5 guys who can rush the quarterback, 4 really good ones. How about Kansas City's offensive line giving a very slippery and very quick quarterback at least enough time to slide or make a play or do what he has to do? We know he's mobile. We know he has good escapability. But how about matching up against that San Francisco pass rush?
I mean, you want to talk about a talented group where on their defensive line they've got 5 first-rounders. And watching them play, it brought back a little bit of memory of playing up against that NFC Championship game in Candlestick, up against the 49ers where they had Justin Smith, Ahmad Brooks. Aldon Smith was playing at his best. But even with that said, they didn't have the interior tackles like they have in DeForest Buckner and how they have in the Armstead. Those guys are so long and so big that when they can press the bow of the pocket in between the A and the B gaps, it lets Bosa and it lets on the other side D Ford just have so much flexibility in their rush. And that's the thing that it's going to be a great challenge because it's old school in the running game of the San Francisco 49ers and new school in the way that Kansas City runs their offense. But I truly believe in the way that Patrick Mahomes can manipulate the platform, can change where he throws from. If you get a zone coverage, he's going to escape a little bit. Wait until that window opens and they'll deliver. Okay, you want to run man? I'm going to pick my one-on-one guy that I want to go to. If he's not there and your linebackers are running out, I can run for the first down, as we saw in this last game. That's why I think for this game, even as good as the front 4 of the San Francisco 49ers defensive line is, they're going to have a linebacker down there to put that additional pressure on him as a quarterback so that he just can't escape and have those plays where he's thrown off platform across his body because he has the arm strength and the confidence to get it done, not to mention he has the weapons to do it. That's why I think in this game, Quan Alexander has to be a factor in.
You know, it's interesting. He, as good as they are with that pass rush, he gives them a lot of things to worry about because he gets outside containment. He could run for a touchdown, which we saw the other day. Plus, he can throw. I mean, he could throw the ball 70 yards in the air on the run, on the dead run. This guy has got an incredible amount of skill as far as his ability to run, and he's got an incredible arm, too.
And that's the thing that would scare you as a defense, but that's the thing that secures this Chiefs offensive line. If you notice, a lot of their schemes aren't just one-on-one. They're sliding one way with the fullback chipping to the opposite side or the tight end or the running back releasing the other way. So it's not like it's just one-on-one where they're going one guy to another. They're working basically full zone schemes because Patrick Mahomes' ability to run with the football. So that's one of the things that's going to really truly be the chess match between Andy Reid and Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator of the 49ers, who we know comes from that Seattle background, that 3-4. They want to be able to get after you with 4 and drop 7. But that's going to be the thing in this game. If now all of a sudden you're not able to get after the quarterback with Patrick Mahomes with 4, and now you add that additional linebacker into the rush, that's one guy that's not going to be able to stop Kelsey, Hill, or Watkins, who has had one-on-ones this entire past game because of the attention drawn to those other two.
Talking with David Deal, why, for an offensive lineman, now you're someone who knows you played in this game. So this game feels different in a lot of different ways. Obviously, in how long you're on the field and how long you got to go back into your locker room and then come back out again, all the different things, the long halftime, all the different things. What's the biggest adjustment that a player has to make? Take it from, say, you're a guy like you, an offensive lineman. What's the biggest adjustment? Is it pregame? Is it halftime? When's the biggest adjustment in this game that is different than any other game?
I definitely think it's pregame because you're used to going out there, having your pregame warm-up, stretching out as a team, doing your individual stuff, coming together as an offense and defense, and then getting off of the field. And within 12, 15 minutes, you're back off and you're kicking off and you're ready for the game. There's so much of a delay before the game starts and before kickoff because they've got to get out there for the national anthem. They've got to bring the stage out. So I always said in the beginning, especially once we got to the second one in 46 to the young guys, don't peak too early. Go out there, stretch out, warm up a little bit, but don't go crazy and burn your adrenaline now because you're going to have an extra 15, 20 minutes to sit there and rest to get ready just for kickoff. So that's a big adjustment because as an athlete, as an NFL player, you're a freaking robot. You're used to the schedule of what a game day is, how it's supposed to go. Okay, you're in your routine. I get taped at this time. We're going to warm up. We're going to talk to our coach. We're going to run out there. The kickoff is going to happen. It doesn't work that way. So that's the biggest adjustment, and that's where having experience going to the Super Bowl helped us so much in Super Bowl 46 after doing it in 42.
And you can do a lot of different things at halftime. You have so much time that if you're a good coach and you know your way around that, you really can get a lot done with each individual unit that isn't typical about halftime. You have so much time at halftime if you know what you're doing, right? If you utilize that properly, did your teams utilize the halftime in an unusual way or in a special way?
Absolutely. I can remember in Indianapolis when we came back in, hey, stretch out. Take off your pads if you need to. We'll give you a 15-minute warning. We're going to give you a 12-minute warning. So it gave guys time to get adjusted, get rest, put on a different jersey if they needed to, adjust their cleats, whatever it was, in a way where it wasn't in a panic. But at that same time, it lets the coaches diagnose what happened in the first half, not in a way that they're rushing through it knowing that they have to get out there. And that was one of the biggest things that helped us in Super Bowl 46. In the first half of that game up against the Patriots, they were running the 3-4. They thought that they could stop the run and limit play action by having 4 linebackers on the field and being able to come downhill and stop those gaps over the guards. We started to have an effective run game, and if you remember, Victor Cruz's opening touchdown was off of play action.
Yep.
So we started to get it going. We started to get a groove and have some confidence. When we came out there in the second half of that game, They completely changed schemes defensively. They went to a 4-3 stat. They said, we're going to load up the A and B gaps. We're not going to let you get to the linebackers, and we're going to stop the run in order for you to win this football game. If the coaches didn't have time to adjust and say, hey, they may throw something different at us in the second half because we're being effective, get ready. We may have to change to this. They didn't have that extra time, and you come out in the second half and you're storming through. Now Bill Belichick's defense switches schemes completely, and if you're not a veteran team and not we're aware of it, man, you're in trouble for a second half of a game, especially at that caliber of a game in the Super Bowl.
Does it take you a while to calm down in that game?
Well, I think the one thing that I said to myself, like I did in the first one, is you can't do anything differently than what got you to this point. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to be hero or Superman. Do your job. Do what you have to do on each individual play and reset for the other one. The one thing I always said was going in, which I enjoyed for both of them, was seeing my daughter on the sidelines and taking in the national anthem and all the lights for the opening kickoff. I mean, that's something you dream of as a kid, is being in that moment, being in that spot, getting ready to play the biggest game of your life. Enjoy it, embrace it for that second, but get ready to fight your ass off because you don't want to have a single regret after it.
But you guys, as you know, had big fourth quarters both times. I mean, both games, you can't come from behind both times.
Absolutely. I mean, that was kind of the case for both of us and for both seasons, especially in the way that in 07 handled. We won 11 straight games on the road, including the Super Bowl. And I remember my family and everybody being like, can't you not give us a heart attack? Can't you just win the game convincingly so we don't have to sit here and wait until all the way till the end? But that was a sign of our football team fighting through adversity, believing in ourselves. And when those times came up where we needed to play, Eli delivered.
Forget overall team right now, which offensive line you feel more confident about right now, right? Just to do their job in this game?
I just, the way that they scheme up, for me, it's Kyle Shanahan and the offensive line for the San Francisco 49ers. You know, when they really struggled a little bit, and that's when Joe Staley had the broken leg, and that's when McGlinchey had the knee. But even with that, they were still running for 138, 150. The way that he forces a defense for that split second just to hesitate instead of react, now you've got them. Because now all of a sudden the defense is chasing with their eyes instead of just doing their job and playing reaction football. So for me, the way that Kyle Shanahan dials up that run game and play action off of it, I mean, the fact that you have Mostert run for 220 and a quarterback who threw the ball 8 times in the conference championship says a lot about Kyle Shanahan and that offense.
You know, San Francisco in the Minnesota game, clearly the quarterback, he looked a little shaky. Garoppolo looked a little shaky. He made one bad throw. He could have had another one picked off. They went to the running game.
Game manager right after it.
Right, and they played that way. Second week, they didn't have to do anything except run it against the Green Bay Packers with the big lead and everything. Do you think, from what you've seen from him this year, and he's made a lot of big game-winning throws. He does not lost a lot of games. He's made a lot of game-winning throws, but he has not looked great so far in the postseason. Does that concern you that you haven't seen Garoppolo how to make a big throw in the postseason, or it doesn't concern you?
But it definitely concerns me considering the team and the offense that he's facing on the other side that, as we've seen in back-to-back weeks, can score points at will. I mean, that's the one thing that scares you, that all of a sudden, if this San Francisco offense can't get the run game going and Spags has a defense dialed up that's going to force the ball into Jimmy Garoppolo's hands, you've seen those erratic throws off plank, especially because he always throws in between the hashes. And he's had those opportunities we saw 2 weeks ago. They've dropped them. They haven't capitalized on them, and some of those things have been luck throughout the football season. That's not going to happen in the Super Bowl up against a defense like this.
Andy Reid's got so much experience. Shanahan's been there. Now, again, people who make a big deal about him blowing the lead, he was the coordinator. He wasn't the head coach. I mean, he shouldn't get any of the grief for that. Listen, you don't have to – the head coach should have told him not to call pass plays. They should have called running plays. We know that. But that should have been up to the head coach.
One of the things
that shouldn't have been up to him.
And one of the things I will say in defense, which it doesn't help matters, which they should have relied on the run game more, is that Alex Mack, their center, had a fractured ankle in the second half.
Yep.
How many people talk about that or bring that up? He was their guy that, especially the way that the New England Patriots attacked, that if he can't reach a one technique because they knew that he was injured, the run game's going to be very inefficient. I'm not giving him any cop-out. Believe me, everybody knows looking back at that game, especially in second and third down, run the football.
That was the head coach's fault, though. That's on him.
Without
Yeah,
a doubt.
yeah.
You can that's your job as a head coach.
Overrule
if you
him.
don't feel something,
Yep.
overrule it.
Absolutely. But with that being the case, he's only coached for 3 years, and that's a relatively. You got Spags, who's had brilliant victories. You got Andy Reid and Spags. You got a young defensive coordinator who's been good, and you have Shanahan. They have a world of experience on that Kansas City side. You think that comes to play in this game or no?
I do think it comes into play, and once again, when it comes to the scheduling, getting guys prepared, how to have practices, getting guys settled in game day, I do think that there's a calming point when you have coaches that have been there before, that you're not getting the drive-by coaching, having the walkthrough before the walkthrough before the walkthrough, because the anxiousness of being there for the first time. And as a coach, you always want to make sure, I don't want to leave a stone left unturned. I don't want to do this. But when you've been there before and when it comes game time, you've got to let guys play. You've got to believe in them. You can't put that much on them, and that's where the experience of Andy Reid and Spags will truly show. And a team that was in the conference championship last year knew what it was like to almost have the taste of it and taken away by the New England Patriots. That's the thing that I really think that sets the Kansas City Chiefs apart from the San Francisco 49ers.
All right, Dave, thanks very much. We'll talk to you along the way. Thanks again for all your stuff. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right, Dave Deal, who did a great job for those Giant teams because of two things. He was tough and he was versatile, and I think you need both. You need to have guys who can play more than one position so that when you have an injury, your line doesn't completely collapse, that you can slide a guy in and he can play here and he can play there. And, you have to have those guys. It's imperative. I mean, the Giants had that in 90. They had it with guys who were able to be versatile and tough in Deal's years. You need that. It's imperative with these lines because you're going to get guys nicked up. You're going to get guys out of the game. But it is a very different game on a lot of levels. And I know sitting around, because having been to the game so many times, if you're in the stands, you're going to be in your seat, and you can think about what it's like for a player. You see those players trickle out and they warm up, and they go back in, and it's an eternity till they come back out. So there's so much time to kill. There's so much dead time that day. There's so much time to kill even when you get to the stadium. And then you have a massive halftime. So, I mean, when you realize that those halftimes take forever. So you have a lot of time in that locker room to allow guys to hopefully do what they have to do, whether it's get retaped, get a new uniform on, get equipment fixed, get something treated, get a shot if that's the case in some cases, which it is. Whatever it takes to get ready to play the second half, but also the adjustments that can be made. And you have very, very veteran coaches on the Kansas City side. They've been there and done that. Listen, Shanahan has been in big games. Obviously, he was a coordinator in this game, in what was a nightmarish game. Andy was in one of the strangest Super Bowls of all time because, as we know, we've still always wondered what the heck was going on with McNabb in that game. We still, to this day, don't know really what went on in that game. It was that bizarre. So that was his one trip. But he's been in playoff. He's coached 28 playoff games. Think about that. How many guys in their career get to coach 28 playoff games? This guy's won 207 regular season games. He's won 14 playoff games out of 28. He's 14-14 in the playoffs. He's been to title games so many times. He's been to big playoff games. You've watched him this last 2 weeks as his team got down 24 points, and he didn't panic. And then his team got down 10 points to a red-hot team that had just beat New England and had just beat Baltimore. And, again, there's no panic in them. And, listen, you don't want them to start the Super Bowl down 10-0 again. You don't want them playing terribly again early in the game as they have the first couple of weeks where they've just looked out of sync and they've made big mistakes and penalties and drop balls and, block punts and muffed punt returns and everything that they've done in these first couple of weeks of the games, only to see their offense just go and get these runs. Yesterday against a Tennessee team that was playing really good ball, they put up a 28-0 middle of the game. They outscored them 28-0. In the other game, now that was with some help from a terrible coaching performance by O'Brien once he had a big lead, but they clicked off 8 straight touchdowns in that game. 7 straight touchdowns in that game. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's 49 points. That's scary. I mean, that's an outrageous. They went from. They put up 51 points in the last 3 quarters of that game. 51 points. 28 in the second quarter. In the first 2 playoff games, they have put up 42 points in the second quarter. 7 in the first quarter, 42 in the second quarter. And in the middle of that game against a team that was red hot with a back who was virtually unstoppable and with a team that was playing really as well as you could play and playing confidently, they got down 10 and then outscored them 28-0. That's impressive. So they've seen that, done that, and they have a quarterback who very much looks the part of being the new star at the position. There's no question there's an edge with Mahomes at quarterback. Now, listen, I like Garoppolo. I think you're going to hear a lot of negative stuff about Garoppolo here because of the fact that he didn't play well in the Minnesota game. He's made some erratic throws at times. He's had some bad passes during the season at times. And the one thing you look, though, is he has not lost. And he's made plays that he has to make at the end of games, like the New Orleans game. He makes plays at the end of games that he has to make. He's got an uncanny nature there. And a lot of people think this is the guy Belichick, he wanted to keep him on the team in the worst way, and that this is the guy he wanted to be his future quarterback. A lot of people feel that. But Garoppolo wanted to get paid, or he wanted to force the issue. He either wanted his own team or he wanted to get paid. And he either was going to ask for Bundle to sit tight, or he was going to go get his own team, and he got his own team. And his team is in the Super Bowl a couple of years later. John Lynch did an incredible job building both lines, building the defensive line, building the offensive line. Did a great job in building his infrastructure. But when he had a chance to go get his quarterback, he went and got him. And that changed everything for his team because he knew where to get it. And I'm telling you, remember when that trade happened, a lot of people were against it, and I told you I was completely for it. I told you Garoppolo was the real thing, and here he is. A couple of years later, he's sitting in the Super Bowl. That trade worked out 10 times over because they got themselves a guy who could lead them, and that he's done. And he hasn't looked great in the last couple of weeks. And they've kind of played around him. But that doesn't mean they can't play through him. And I think if they lose, they will not lose because of him. I think they'll lose because their defense cannot slow down at the key juncture of the game. Their defense cannot slow down that Kansas City attack. There gets a point where that attack just gets going, and it's very difficult to slow it down. And that's what's happened in the 2 playoff games. It just gets to the point where it's going to score and score and score and just keep coming at you relentlessly and scoring. And that's what it did. That's what it did to Houston with some help from O'Brien, but that's what it did to Tennessee. When we come back, we'll hit the fan. We'll also have the Hall of Fame voting coming up in just a few minutes.
On the Fan, Sports Radio 66 and 101.9 FM, WFAN.
All right, a little after 6, we're here on the Fan. Actually in the city today, so I'm in my old studio. First time I've been in the studio since early December. It's a rare visit here, so I'm in the studio that bears my name, which Joe and Evan use every day. So back in my old stomping ground, and we are awaiting the Hall of Fame vote. And obviously, there's no drama for Derek Jeter. There is obviously drama for Curt Schilling. There's obviously drama for Larry Walker. I, for one, won't vote for Larry Walker to get in. I would say no. It's going to be close. Why? 70 points higher at home than on the road. He's the product of the ballpark. I'm sorry, he is. Look at his numbers. They're overwhelmingly home. They're not close. They're overwhelming. He's 70 points in batting average, a 270 hitter on the road, a 348 lifetime hitter in Colorado. I'm sorry, that's too much. It's too much. It just makes too much of a difference. Schilling, I think absolutely. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he was a dominant. See, I like guys who were dominant in their era, where they were dominant players, and he was a dominant pitcher. He made a big difference. And, of course, for Jeter, and it's funny, as we see this day, and this is the last hurrah for Jeter. There's nothing left to win. There's no more hills to climb. There's no more awards to receive. This one comes years later. It's the one that everyone says means the most. I'm sure you won't get a lot of emotion out of Jeter. You never do. Because it's so expected. I mean, even there's no drama for him, even with the Hall of Fame, because of his, his career. But having been here and watched him break in, and having watched every big game, either in person, or most of them in the playoffs in person, that he ever played, having watched him over such a long period of time, it makes you realize just, how quickly time goes. Because when you get to see, I didn't see Mickey Mantle in his prime. I saw Mickey Mantle as a baby in, 1961. I watched him in later years when I remember him obviously in 62. I remember him in 64 when he could still was a very, talented player. I watched as he eroded after that for the 4 years, 65 to 68. I saw Bobby Mercer play his whole career. I saw Don Mattingly play his whole career. I watched Jeter and all that Yankee group play their whole careers. But as you watch the guy play and you watch him as the rookie, and then you watch how the career takes shape, his career took shape so quickly. He went from being a raw rookie to being something special and a leader so quickly. And he was so mature, but, in terms of performance and in terms of his ability to handle himself, so mature beyond his years. There was no learning curve for him in that stuff. He took the things so quickly, and he got it from the beginning. He always knew how to handle himself. He always knew how to handle the media. He always knew what was proper, what was right, what the right thing to do in the right spot. We've seen very few careers like that. There was so few missteps. Really, there were, in big terms, there were none. I mean, and I know sometimes it's hard to put his career into some perspective because he never won an MVP. He was never the most dominant player because he was not, he was not a five-tool superstar like we know them because he was not a power hitter. He, in essence, was a leadoff hitter. He was a top-of-the-lineup hitter. He wasn't the best defensive shortstop. There was always somebody who was a little better. He wasn't the best hitter. There was always somebody a little better. But when you put the combination together, there was such a incredible efficiency to performance, and there was also such a clutch. And he's a guy who lifted his game. Most guys don't even play to their own level in the postseason. He not only played to his own level, he lifted his game in the postseason year after year, and he lived in the postseason. He was on the right team. See, his performance and the nuances of it, the little things that mattered, that he did, that wouldn't have mattered on a team that didn't win. So he was in the right city, he was with the right team, and he was the right player for that time. And he had the career that I compare him to in a lot of ways is, to me, he was a lot like Magic Johnson. There were flaws to the game just like there was to Magic's. But when you added it all up, there was a leadership and there was a specialty to the game that was in many ways flawless. And they won a lot. And that was a big part of it. And, there were always other guys, but he had a special place, and he was clearly the quintessential leader, and that makes a big difference. It really does. And now he will get his last accolade, and I'm sure, knowing how his career has gone, would you expect anything but Jeter to wind up with 100%? I wouldn't. I mean, not that I care, because I don't. I mean, to me, who cares if he got 97, 98, or 99%? I mean, somebody will care. But, I mean, really, does it matter? It doesn't take away from who he is. It just take away from some voter who was just, wanting to make a splash. Because how would you, in good conscience, not vote him to the Hall of Fame? It makes no sense. But, hey, somebody didn't vote for Willie Mays. Somebody didn't vote for Mickey Mantle. Somebody decided, I don't put anybody on the first ballot. Well, who cares? The bottom line is there's no issue here. None. The more fascinating thing is who else gets in if anybody does. Does Walker squeak through? Does Schilling get in? And we know none of the steroid guys are going to break the barrier. That's not happening. Will that eventually happen? No, I don't think so. I think what will happen first is that there will be a guy in the Hall of Fame who we will learn without any doubt that he was a steroid guy, and we didn't know it officially, and then we're going to find out that he is, and it's going to ruin that whole idea of keeping it pristine, and then you have to let him all in. It's going to eventually happen, because I think it's probably already happened. I don't know that it's happened, but I wouldn't be surprised if it has. And it's going to happen, and that's going to change it. That's the only way it changes. Do I think there'll be a change of heart and all of a sudden they'll vote these guys in? No, because let's be honest. If you're not going to take Barry Bonds, even ahead of A-Rod, even ahead of Clemens, even ahead of Manny Ramirez, if you're not going to take Barry Bonds, who played baseball, if you look at his career, at a level that only Babe Ruth ever approached, how could he not be in the Hall of Fame? He so dominated the game. We have never seen anybody ever dominate the game like he dominated it. So if we're not going to put him in the Hall of Fame, then we're not putting anybody in the Hall of Fame. So then nobody's getting in when it comes to that, because if he doesn't go first, it doesn't make any sense. That's how dominant the level of performance was. All right, when we come back, we'll have your answers. We'll give it to you as it happens. Larry Walker, Curt Schilling, and Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter is getting in. The question is he going to go in alone, or will he go in with Larry Walker? Will he go in with Curt Schilling? Larry Walker is in. I don't agree. I don't want to rain on his parade. His credentials are there. 313 hitter, 3 batting titles, 384 home runs, etc. But the splits between home and away were so enormous. 70 points just in batting average. Stark in home runs and RBIs. The Coors Field guys getting in is a little much. I'm sure that Helton's very happy to see that as for the future, but I'd have a problem. I think Larry Walker's a really good player. Hall of Famer? Almost traded one's head up for Bernie Williams. That trade almost happened. Came very close to a head-up trade for Bernie Williams, Larry Walker. So, to me, I know I'm a hard marker. I admit it. He'd fall on he'd be on the negative side for me. I would not have put Larry Walker in, but congratulations to Larry Walker. He gets in, and the question is, will he be joined by? Well, we know he's joined by Derek Jeter. The only question for Derek Jeter is, did he get a perfect score? Jeter joins Larry Walker in the Hall of Fame. We'll get the scoring in a minute, get the voting, and see if he got 100% of the votes. That's the only issue with Jeter. Is he at 98, 99, 100? He's going to be probably over 99%. We'll see if he's at 100. That's the only thing that matters. Here we go. Larry Walker just got in. He got in by 6 votes. You need 75%. He got 76.6 So Larry Walker squeaks in 76.6. We'll have whether Jeter got in. And I guess that's it, right? No one else got in. Is that it? Just the two? So Kurt Schilling, what did he get? Do we know what? See, I would have put Kurt Schilling in. So only Derek Jeter and Larry Walker have been elected. Larry Walker was elected at 76.6. He got in by 6 votes. I don't know how many Schilling got. We'll have to wait and see. We'll get the voting in a minute. We'll also get whether Jeter got 100%. But I personally would not have put Walker in. And this is not any, I'm just trying to be honest here. I think the big problem for him is home away. We know what an advantage it is offensively to play in Coors Field. When you hit 348 lifetime in Coors Field and 313 for your career, 270 on the road, and you have splits that are also equally heavy to home for home runs and RBIs, I have a problem with that. I don't think Park should be that enormous of a difference. I think that takes away. I think it detracts. So, but he did get in. He got in at 76.6. He squeaked his way in by 6 votes. So Larry Walker got in. I'm waiting to see just 2 things. Number one, did Jeter get 100% of the votes? Because I know some of you care about that. I know that's important to you, that he gets 100% of the vote. Schilling got 70%. So how many votes does that come down to? Jeter got 9. He was 1 short. He got 99.7 to Mariano's 100. He got 396 of 397. There's always one fool out there who wants to be different. I mean, Now, you know why? This guy, nobody should call him, because all this guy wants is somebody to call him. What this guy decided is, I'm going to be the guy who's going to get national attention now. I'm going to have guys calling from my ballot. I'm going to have guys calling me names, but I'm going to get to do 1 million interviews. I'm going to get to go on Baseball Network. I'm going to get to go on all the shows and try to explain to you why I didn't put Derek Jeter in the first year. I mean, just don't even bother. Don't even go look for the guy. He's not worth your trouble, okay? I mean, and Schilling was 20. So Walker got in by 6 votes to hit 76.6. Schilling was 20 votes shy of getting in. Now, Schilling doesn't have a lot of friends. Okay, and I think that hurts him. But to me, when I'm looking at it, I want the guy. See, I don't look at. See, some people look at compiling as a positive. I look at compiling as a negative. Because I think you're supposed to be above compiling when it comes to the Hall of Fame. I think you're supposed to dominate. I think the Hall of Fame's for the guys who are no-brainers, who their performance is top. Schilling left a mark on the sport. He dominated the sport. He dominated big games. He was a great big game pitcher. I want to give that. I care more about the guy who wins that game than who pitched a 1-0 shutout against a second division team in August on some Thursday night. I don't care about that game. I care about the bloody sock. I care about the games he won in big spots. I care about him, performing the way we watched him do in the postseason. He was a dominant guy. All right, here's what we have. Jeter 396, 99.7. We already said one fool left him off. Don't go looking for the fool. Larry Walker got 304 votes. That's 76.6. He got in by 6. This was his last year, Larry. That was it. He was gone with the wind after this year, so he got in. Schilling, who has 2 years left to get in, got 70% of the votes. 278. Needed 20 more votes to get in. Roger Clemens was next, 61%. Barry Bonds, 60%. Was that up from last year? Was that even from last year? Can you guys tell me? Are they gaining in traction? Are they losing? Where are they? Are they the same? Clemens and Bonds, who, let's be honest, are both Hall of Famers. If there's a Hall of Fame, they both belong. Yes, they both abused steroids, but these guys were so good. Steroids didn't put them. Did steroids help them? Absolutely. Did steroids take them to a different level? Yeah, but these guys weren't just Hall of Famers. These guys were immortal players. They're two of the best players of all time. First time over 60. As you can see, nobody wants to get involved with Manny Ramirez, who got 28% of the vote. Now listen, Manny Ramirez should get 0 or he should get, 80% of the vote, because Manny Ramirez is, is he a guy who abused it? Absolutely. Is he a Hall of Famer? Yes. Is he an all-time great? Yes. You got a bunch of guys like that, and you got to figure out what to do with them. And that's something that's a real black eye for baseball. It's a black eye for baseball's history. Not to know what to do with Clemens, with Bonds, with A-Rod, with Manny, with Sammy, with McGuire, and with all the other steroid guys who have come down the pike. There's a bunch of them that belong in the Hall of Fame, as we know. They're Hall of Famers. If you're looking for the guys who registered votes this year, somebody actually voted for J.J. Putz. He got a vote. Maybe he got the vote he didn't get. Raul Ibanez got a vote. That was because of the home run he hit at Yankee Stadium. That was it. He got it for that one home run. He got a vote. Okay. Cliff Lee got 2 votes. Eric Chavez got 2 votes. There's a guy who's a Hall of Fame, Eric Chavez. Paul Konerko got 10 votes, all from the Konerko family. Jason Giambi, who I think has a connection to the show or has through the years, has got 6 votes. I've heard his name once or twice on this program. Got 6 votes. Might as well let me mention it once in a while. He got 6 votes. Bobby Abreu got 22. Andy got 45 and 11% of the vote. Andrew Jones, who's not a Hall of Famer. Jeff Kent, who I think was a really good player, but a cut below a Hall of Famer. Scott Rowland, Omar Vizquel. And then Bonds and Clemens broke 60% for the first time ever, but 60% is still a long way from getting in. They need another 60 votes to get in apiece. So they are on the outside looking in. So congratulations to the captain. He gets 99.7. Somebody will look at that tomorrow as a negative, okay? Just to show you how silly things are. That Mariano got 100 and Jeter got 99.7, and that's a slight. Yeah. Nowhere in this world is getting 99.7% of the vote and get into the Hall of Fame a slight, okay? Come on. And Larry Walker will join him so that he's not in alone among the regular entrants. So Larry Walker gets in at 76.6. And Schilling doesn't make it by 20 votes. And again, Schilling's, mouth, some of his views could easily have cost him 20 votes. Hey, I think Schilling is a Hall of Fame. I really do. Of that group, I think he's a Hall of Famer. Now, again, I'm not counting the guys who are automatics, like Bonds and Clemens and guys like that, and Manny Ramirez, who, we know if they're not tinged by steroids, they're in on the first ballot, all of them. They're all-time greats. All-time greats. Legendary figures. And somehow, some way, that will all change one day. Baseball's got a lot of mess. It's got a lot of gaps in its history right now. And it probably hasn't had this bad an offseason in a long time, because look at what's gone on in the last couple of weeks. Not only what went on with the sign-stealing scandal, look at the shots that La Russa have taken. Look at the shots that Trout took. Look at some of the stuff that's going on this week. Some of the innuendo. Rumors about 8 teams being involved. No one knows if that's true or not true. Who knows? And I've seen people criticizing the commissioner about how he's handling this thing. Here's one thing about criticizing the commissioner about all this stuff. Unless you know exactly what the commissioner knows, it's really hard to criticize him here about the way he's handled this because we don't know exactly what he knows. There's a lot of information we don't know about all this stuff. We don't have all the information about this sign stealing stuff. We don't know how close other teams were or whether other teams were involved. There's been all kinds of rumors that there were, so we don't even know that. All we know is there's some guys who bit the dust because of it. That's what we know. But today is a day that Jeter earned, and rightfully so, earns a chance to basically step into the summer sun one more time and have it really just allow him to bask in the glory of it, which he has earned with that career that he put forth. So he has another big day coming to him in Canton, one he richly deserves, the grand stage, joining the other Yankee immortals in the Hall of Fame as a first ballot Hall of Famer